everyone, and welcome back to the VICTVS podcast. I'm aware that this week your hosts look a little bit different, but don't worry, we're coming to you with some really, really exciting news stories from all over the world. I'm here with my co-host, Katherine Barnett, and we look after everything marketing, events, comms related for VICTVS, and we're super excited to be here.
Hi Xanthe, hi everyone. If you're passionate about education, the future of learning and even AI as well, you've come to the right place. We're going to be looking at the news making headlines in the education sector, covering everything from the digitalisation of exams as well as AI in the education space. Let's get into it.
So I think, first of all, I wanted to talk about the blog piece that you wrote this week, which was focusing on a major shift happening in the UK. With Ofqual's push towards the digitalisation of exams. And as the UK transitions to more digital formats, there's the argument that there's both opportunities and challenges ahead. So, yeah, what do you think of it?
Yeah, so digital exams and their introduction can obviously bring people some massive benefits. They have their own challenges as well, but let's go through the benefits first. So obviously we're aware that exams, from a very basic level, use an enormous amount of paper. So digital exams are better for the environment because people will obviously do those online. They also have major accessibility benefits. So people who need larger fonts or who might need audio or video for an assessment, whereas other people might not need them. These students can actually get those accessibility requirements met through digital exams, which is obviously really great. They also, when done well, which we'll come back to in a minute, can be more secure than paper exams. I know we were having a conversation about this the other day where you mentioned obviously paper exams. There's opportunities for them to be mishandled and potentially, stolen, things like that. Whereas that can be more difficult with digital exams. Yes, and also another thing, handwriting. Obviously, students who maybe have harder to decipher handwriting might get penalised for that from markers. That can't really happen with digital exams. It kind of universalizes that experience for every student and marker, which benefits both student and marker. So that's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so interesting. I remember when I was sitting my GCSEs, as a dyslexic student, I was able to have a separate room and have my exam papers printed out on larger format in yellow paper. And I remember one time it hadn't been organised and I was forced to sit for 20 minutes behind everyone else and not be able to sit my exam because that had been set up. So I think the idea of exams going digital is exciting because for those like accessibility needs. But the thing that pops into my head immediately was, what are the socioeconomic issues, especially, you know, for those students that don't have access to, say, computers at home or can't afford it or in poverty. I think that's going to be like a potential issue, making sure that it's even, and it doesn't give students an advantage if they, you know, have computers at home and if the schools, you know, can afford them, etc.
Yeah, I think it can be easy to look at exams from a place of privilege and just assume that everybody has access to good laptops at home and mobile phones, things like that. But obviously, as you mentioned, people from lower income backgrounds might not have that experience or they might have limited access. And that would definitely unfairly disadvantage those students in a digital exam setting. Also, there are issues regarding cybersecurity. Obviously, when you put things online, that becomes a huge issue. I mentioned earlier that digital exams can be more secure, but they can also be more insecure. There's vulnerabilities that only become apparent when you put things online. If a school doesn't have secure, strong and stable Wi-Fi, that presents a whole new load of issues, especially where there are students who will go to every length to make less effort for themselves during an exam. If somebody's particularly nifty when it comes to computers, they might be able to hack a school system and cause all sorts of havoc. And of course, there's issues also with third parties who might be able to hack school Wi-Fi systems or the exam software itself. So yeah, there's a whole load of issues there which really need to be prevented before digital exams can be rolled out nationwide.
Absolutely. I mean, and on top of that, when you have online exams, you then have to get remote or digital invigilation for these exams. And obviously our listeners will know that VICTVS, we provide remote invigilation all over the world on a global scale. So this is an issue that we see all the time. If the school's internet, I mean, you were talking to a contract lead this morning about bad internet connection and how it can completely derail exams. So are we at the point where we can have these exams online? You know, and I think VICTVS is going to have a big say in making sure that remote invigilation is kept at the highest level so that people cannot cheat, cannot hack into their exams. I mean, it's really exciting that we are going to do the exam hack next year as well, and invite people to test our product. We're the only company in the market that invite people to actively test our systems so that we can be the best. So yeah, I mean, fascinating. Let's see where it goes, and maybe in the future everyone will be sitting their exams online.
Yeah, if you want to read more about this as well, you can also check out the blog post that I wrote on our website.
Okay, so now I want to try something a little bit different. I know that we both prepared some of our top news stories from the EdTech, AI, exam industries. I'm going to start off with my story and then get your take on it. So MP Helen Hayes has been elected as Chair of Education Committee, which is really exciting. This is significant because the committee plays a vital role in shaping education and assessment policies. So moving forward, it'll be really interesting to see what she does, especially with exam fairness, access to resources, if exams are going digital, making sure that no one's left behind. And her leadership will probably lead in the decisions of future policies within the education landscape in the UK, which is exciting for us as a company as well. So yeah, hopefully it brings on some fresh perspectives and some positive reforms, but who knows? Is there anything that you'd like to see from, I don't know, our government in terms of education policy moving forward?
Yeah, so I think with this new Labour government and with Helen Hayes coming in, I would just like to see some more stability and cohesion across the syllabus and also the way that students take exams. We've got things like T-levels, written exams, potentially digital exams as well, which we've just discussed. I think it would be nice to, just see some cohesion within that so that students don't have to keep changing the way that they do things. Potentially some development of the syllabus as well. I think it's been fairly, well, my opinion is it's maybe been a bit stagnant over the last few years, the last government. So I think it would make sense if the Labour government developed that, brought in some new topics. I think just stability really for the students is super important. And it will be interesting to see how the Labour government does handle the digitalisation. Hard word to say.
I know, we're going to say it so many times as well today.
The digitalisation of exams, how they handle that obviously is really important given what we just discussed. So, yeah, it will be really interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be nice to see not so much chopping and changing between what things are called or what assessments are sat, and also catching up on the COVID years. I mean, students sitting or joining university now went through so much turmoil with COVID and whether they could sit exams or whether they could get their exams increased and all of that. So hopefully that stability and things will be a bit more easier for students now. Fingers crossed.
Hopefully we won't have some other global disaster which upends things even more. We can only hope and pray.
Absolutely not.
All right, Xanthe, let's switch gears to talk about something else. The DVSA, so the Driver and Vehicle Standards Agency, released their annual report for last year, and they revealed that they've delivered a massive 2.9 million theory tests last year.
Oof.
Yeah, that was a lot of theory tests. Next year actually marks the 25th anniversary of the theory test being delivered on screen. So they started doing them back in January 2000, which feels much closer than it actually is. Yeah, as a side note, in Bulgaria, they've actually introduced a limit of 4 times for this driving theory test. So you can only take it 4 times and that's it. I think it's interesting to consider how different countries vary and how many times they let someone sit an exam. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so I actually passed my theory test first time.
Congratulations.
I know you're getting at the fact that I've done my driving test 4 times now. So if I was in Bulgaria, and it was for the actual physical exam, I'd be out. I think it's really interesting. I think exams should have a certain level of pressure, and like they do everywhere else with a driving test, which is essentially giving you permission to drive a killing machine, to have that kind of pressure that if you fail 4 times at the theory of driving a car, then you're not allowed. And I'm not actually against it, because you do want people on the road that haven't just memorized answers for the sake of memorizing. You know, you want people to understand the content. So hopefully they'll be encouraged to revise and to focus on it and then pass their exam first time. So yeah, I'm glad it's not for the physical one.
Yeah, you'd be a bit screwed there,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I think you raised some good points there, actually. Exams do need to have a certain level of pressure, and taking them seriously, especially when it comes to driving and being allowed to go on the road.
Absolutely.
Now, let's head over to the US for some news from there. UCLA has made headlines by recently appointing their first ever Chief Data and AI Officer, Chris Mattman, who actually comes from a background at NASA, which is super interesting. But basically the hiring of Chris Mattman kind of signifies how AI is obviously going to be taking a more permanent role in education across the globe, wherever it's available.
AI is just everywhere, man.
It's
Isn't
unfortunately.
it? You can't escape it now. I mean, this is really exciting, though.
Yeah, I say unfortunately. Obviously, using AI can have benefits, but there's lots of challenges ahead, which is partly why Chris Mattman has been hired. His role is going to be focusing on developing an ethical framework for AI and driving collaboration across UCLA's campus. So yeah, he will be kind of looking at how they can ethically use AI, basically, and also managing the challenges that comes with that. I think it's really interesting that they've made that appointment, and I'm wondering if we'll see a lot more of that across different universities and different institutions all over the world, really.
I saw something about this appointment, and then the idea in general of automated grading. So using AI to grade assessments or exams. And I'm really interested by this because it might give, academics and professors more time to focus on the research that they do at their institutions rather than grading the students' work. However, I'd be really interested in seeing the students' reactions to AI results or grades that they've gotten via AI. So yeah, I'm going to keep my eye out for that, definitely.
Yeah, I think there's also other issues that need to be kind of looked at with AI, which I'm sure will be part of this role that Chris Mattman's taken on. So the use of AI students' own use of AI in writing their assessments and their work, as well as the use of AI detection software to kind of to find out whether students have been using AI. I think that will be really interesting. It's going to be a tough job for him, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it actually brings us on to our final news story today. The story of the teacher in the UK, Jack Dougal, he was a humanities teacher. I mean, hopefully he still is. I hope he hasn't lost his job because of this experiment. But he challenged all of his students to use AI such as ChatGPT to cheat on their homework without getting caught. So we actually sat them down and said, okay, listen up, kids. I want you to sit this exam, use AI, don't get caught, and yeah, basically expecting them to not be able to, or for him as a teacher, be able to spot the AI. The results were absolutely nuts. So a whopping 50% of the 12-year-olds succeeded. I think it was 38%. Let me check. Yeah, 38% of the 13-year-olds was successful. And then 100% of the 17-year-olds were able to bypass AI detection software and the eyes of the teachers. So, 100% of 17-year-olds successfully did an assessment, used AI, didn't get caught. And I think in the overall experiment, 62% of the students had never used AI before anyway. So obviously it's a very intuitive thing to be able to do now. And it's just such a clear reminder at how quickly students will adapt to new technology. So taking us back to the story from before, it's interesting to see that these institutions are now bringing in specific people for, the function to look after AI. We are now entering that era of AI being involved in every part of education assessment. So yeah, I just thought it was absolutely nuts. And really cool as well. Well done to those kids for just absolutely smashing the assignment.
Yeah, they did smash it. I don't know why I was surprised when I saw that 100% of 17-year-olds managed to get around the AI detection software. Of course they did. They're 17-year-olds. I think that really summarizes how kids who want to get away with doing very little work will go out of their way to make that happen. As ironic as it is, they will do a lot of work to do no work, which I do kind of respect. But it's just, that makes a challenge that will keep on growing for schools and different educational institutions, which will be so tough to manage, especially as the software like ChatGPT and other AI software continues to develop and learn and get around these AI detection systems. I think teachers and everyone really at an educational establishment will need to undergo or start undergoing training, significant training in how to manage these challenges. Yeah, it's a really, really complex and daunting issue, which I'm really glad I don't have to solve personally.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key takeaway from it is that this AI software, like such as ChatGPT, they're not foolproof. They're not perfect, and they're also continually improving and adapting. So institutions just need to evolve as quickly as they are. And I think especially with the introduction of this AI officer and so many institutions now being fully involved in how much AI is playing a role in their students' kind of degrees, is that they're just going to have to step it up a notch, and because AI isn't perfect. I mean, it's a great tool for certain things. But yeah, students will still get caught out 100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't doubt it. Especially as teachers kind of catch on as well, they'll be able to look out they'll be able to look out for certain signs. You can always tell when something's been written by ChatGPT when it starts with the exact same phrase at the beginning of every sentence. I'm sure that will be something that these teachers can look out for. But yeah, definitely an area which is going to continue to challenge teachers and students alike, I think.
Okay, so I guess as we wrap up this episode, it's clear that education is at a crossroads, whether it's through digitising exams, integrating AI, or shaping policy. The future of education is just so rapidly changing, and I'd like to thank you, Kat, for joining me. I hope we get to do this again in the future, this little mini pod news of the week kind of thing for EduTech. So yeah, thanks for joining me.
You're so welcome. I've had a lovely time.
Thank you again. And thanks to our wonderful listeners and viewers for joining us this week. I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't worry, all of the stories and stats and facts that we mentioned today will be listed in our blog. Make sure to check it out and all of our previous podcasts, as well as I'm sure you'll find them fascinating. You can visit www.victus.co.uk, and you can also learn more about Victus and what we do, and Victus Assured as well. So we'll be joining you back in the future in our usual format, getting industry professionals and academics in to answer interesting topics from all over the world. And we'll also be doing mini pods bringing you the latest news in EduTech, AI, and exam assessment industries from all over the globe. So yeah, thanks and have a wonderful day.